Hello, everybody. It's Lesley Jane Seymour, and I'm here for CoveyClub. And I'm really excited to talk to a great friend of mine who you all should know. She's been a friend for a very long time, super inspirational. Um, and what she does is not only a reinvention story, but a story about somebody who really cares about others and had an idea out of nowhere and made it happen. And I think that's super inspirational for all of us, especially today. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Danielle Butin. Danielle, you can wave so they know you're there. Danielle Butin founded the I never noticed AFIA, right? I never say it.
Afia.
AFIA
Afia. Yeah.
Foundation in 2008 to provide essential medical supplies to communities in crisis, including those affected by the 2010 Haitian earthquake, the 2011 Japanese tsunami, and the 2014 Ebola outbreak. With degrees in occupational therapy and public health, she previously managed Medicare services for United Healthcare before a trip to Tanzania inspired her to address gaps in medical aid. IAFA, I always say it wrong. I always say it wrong. I apologize. Matches recovered medical supplies with hospitals in need and provides ongoing support, including disaster relief and maternal health initiatives. Butin also teaches and speaks to students about social entrepreneurship and has received multiple awards, including the 2015 Clinton Global Citizen Award. And she's a great friend, and you just have to get to know her for her inspiration and for her energy. And one of the really cool things is she just wrote a book. So here it is, Wild Hope Now, which is all about what she did and how she did it. And I know I'm trying to hide that. There's my fingers in the right place. It's just so wonderful to see somebody who was doing one thing and then decided to do another. So talk a little bit about how you got to where you are, because it's such a fascinating story, about you sitting around and listening to another woman who was having an issue and you tried to solve a problem for her. Like, amazing that that can become a total occupation.
So I had left a Fortune 500 executive position, and um, something deep inside of me kept saying, you have to go to Africa. And my family, I'm a divorced mother of three. My family is saying, you're out of your mind. Like, what are you doing? You should be looking for your next executive position. And I trusted the voice. So this is the beginning of the story. Is a story requires each of us to fully show up for the story that's about to be told. And most of the time we have no idea that we're living the introduction to it. So I listened to myself. I'm glad I did. And I went to Tanzania on a vacation, really thinking this is the one time I'm going to have this much time and a break to do whatever I want to do. And there, one night in the Serengeti Plains, a woman is sobbing with a glass of wine in her hand, sobbing alone. And I walked up to her and said, are you all right? And what's happening here? And she said, no, I'm not all right. I am the woman's health physician in London. I came here to do months of medical mission work. I can't do anything. Children are dying. There are no IV supplies. There are no wound care supplies. There's nothing I can do to make a difference here. And she was so defeated. And there are times in each of our lives where we hear the story of another person and we feel it, really feel it. And then there are times where you hear the story and you have to do something about the story you just heard. So, this was an interesting moment for me because I knew nothing about what I was about to get into. Absolutely nothing. I had run health services for New York's elders, and I love older adults, and I'd worked clinically with them for 20 years. And I was committed to figuring this out. So I went home. I walked through the tunnels of the biggest and best hospitals of New York, and I said, I want to see what you throw out. And what I learned in those tunnels was that we are the only nation in the world that requires, because of federal regs, any medical supplies that are exposed to the patient's medical field must be thrown away, regardless if they've been touched, they haven't been touched.
That's in the operating room when you say that, so people understand what you mean. Is you
Yes,
go in for an operation and they have things in the drawer that they may use or may not use. They may, they have all these backups in case something happens way out here. You have it all here, but the regulations provide that once it's been in that operation room with you, it has to go because it might be contaminated, or they think,
yes,
who knows? They're
yes,
being super,
yes.
super, super
We are
careful.
the only nation, Lesley, in the world that does this. So So that's interesting. And that was the launch of Afia. And Afia means health in the Kiswahili language. I
Uh,
had to name it that to honor the land that whispered this work to me. And I started. I started. I didn't know what I was doing. I really didn't know what I was doing. My favorite stories in the beginning, I started meeting with hospital folks, folks associated to discarding waste in the tunnels. And one fantastic guy, originally from Dominican Republic, came up to me at Bellevue and said, I have 27 pallets that were exposed to water, like this much water, but because they had water in the room, they could not reintroduce it into medical service. And he said, do you want it? I said, sure, sure, I want it. And this truck sat outside, a semi trailer, sat outside my house in Westchester County for weeks with the police knocking on the door. When are you going to move the truck? And I was
I
like,
bet your
this is
neighbors
happening.
loved you.
Yeah, loved me. Everyone loved me. But any beginning is messy, and you have to be able to tolerate the messiness of the beginning in order to make any story come to life. It is messy and chaotic in the beginning, and that's exactly what it was.
How did you even know? Did you know that they threw this stuff out? Or how did you, like, where was that? Like I wouldn't have even known that. Like, did you know that from an operation you had or something you'd seen or heard? So you were going to check
That's a
that
good
out.
question.
Like,
I
where
knew
was
it from
that?
working in healthcare. I've been working in healthcare for 20 plus years. And something Afia does that is
They can send you the other stuff.
absolutely.
Okay. And it goes out the door, the other end to somebody who really needs it. Wow. And you can't give back the beds? If you have to have a bed for your elder person, it doesn't go back to a company?
Some do, some don't.
Oh, moly. I didn't know that. Wow. Okay. That's kind of crazy.
So we
Um,
have amazing beds that can become recovery rooms, that can become temporary hospitals during times of war around the world. These supplies are used in a very strategic way to support the care that is needed. A good example of this was one of our hospitals donated to us waiting room furniture. And someone might walk through Afia and say, why do you have all this waiting room furniture? During COVID, indigenous communities that were waiting to be diagnosed, tested, cared for out in the Southwest, they were waiting on rocks and the earth, and it was freezing. And so we created waiting areas from these waiting rooms from hospitals in New York. So the supplies are re-engineered. I'm an occupational therapist by training. So I think in terms of how can we promote function in a different way with very specific products.
so for people who are listening who are trying to figure out, they're lawyers, they're doctors, they're doing all kinds of things and they're thinking, I did this, it's great, it's fun, I'm finished with it, I want to do something else. what I love about you, Danielle, is your passion comes through and you've kept that passion up. How do people find that thing that will supply that passion at a, secondary stage of life?
Hmm.
We all have that passion when we start our first job. We're so excited. We're wearing our suits. I remember people going to reunions in college and high school wearing suits because we thought we were so cool because we actually had a job, right? Someone was taking us seriously, and then you get to the point where it's like, maybe I'm running out. And a lot of people say at midlife, like, when you hear these people say, I'm done, nobody wants what I have to do, nobody, I don't know how to get revived again. How do you tap into that passion again? I mean, I'm guessing you were always a super passionate person about whatever you were doing, but you have such a joy that comes across as well.
That's
Is
a really good question, Lesley. I have two thoughts about that. One is our skills are portable. They're not specific
People
to
don't
the
realize.
walls around us, right? And so as an OT, I say this all the time that I knew my ability to lead in a major healthcare industry and inspire and innovate and strategize was part of me. And I was going to make that a portable set of skills no matter where I went, because that makes me happy. And it was not the walls of these companies, it was me. I didn't know what I was doing with Afia in the beginning. I had a lot to learn about warehousing, global health, trucking, inventory, but I knew the essence of how to execute and how to lead and how to create. So that's a portable set of skills. And I think it's really important for people to be very honest with what are my portable skills and then pay attention to what feels good. I mean, I remember when I was at NYU getting my undergrad, it made me feel good to talk to strangers on the subway who were struggling, like, and have like real conversations sitting next to them and not seeing them, but like really connecting in some way. And I thought there's something here that I have to really start to take a look at. And I think that has continued for me. So we all can live in more of an awakened state of where am I feeling really good inside in this moment? And what are the tenets of it? Is it that I'm around dogs? Is it that I'm with people who are homeless? Is it that I am offering art, which I love, to people who never have art? Like, yeah, we have to get out and expose ourselves to these moments, and then we're awake to them. For me, it has always been working with underserved individuals across the globe. For me, it began in New York and my work here, but I know that as long as I'm involved in work that affects people who deserve far more than they're receiving, I'm really good. I'm like good inside of me.
So how do you decide where you're going to ship products? And also, I remember you telling me a story about shipping an ambulance.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we've done some and an MRI and yeah. So
So talk
it's
about how do you decide? Like there's so many issues around the world and here, with the hurricanes and all that kind of stuff. How do you decide US, international? Do people call you? How does that happen?
so word is out. There is this gorgeous grapevine in the world of aid and relief, and everyone is connected. So much comes from people we've helped, and they tell the new group of people that we're about to start working with. We vet our partners really carefully. They need to be able to clear customs if it's in another country. They need to be clear on what they need. There has to be protection and safety around the supplies that we're sending in. I mean, there are a lot of elements boxes that have to be checked in order for us to commit resources to some of the partners we work with, and many of the partners we work with long term. So, Lesley, people we've been working with in sub-Saharan Africa in a number of countries has been going on for years. And I think that to us is really important, that we want to create sustainable change in healthcare through the access of these supplies. So more than just one and done, it's where can we build a sustainable strengthening system so that a community has generations following that can access healthcare. Disasters dictate where we have to pay some very special and quick attention. The
So
disaster has to,
it's not just disaster oriented. It's
no, we're
there's
doing
a
a
long
lot.
it's a long regular thing, and then but then when you see a disaster, you jump in.
Exactly.
Okay.
And we do a lot since COVID in New York. So COVID just showed, it spotlighted the disparity of healthcare in our own backyard. So New York State Department of Health supports our ability to show up for everyone from homeless shelters, federally qualified health centers, domestic abuse shelters, who Title I school nurses who don't have enough supplies to deliver the care they set out to deliver. And we've got them. We're their safety net. And they know they can turn to us. And if we have the supplies they need, we're going to deliver them.
So how come you can't reuse them in a hospital
Hospital.
in the US, but you can use them elsewhere in the
We can
US?
bring them into the community.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Can you talk about the ambulance that you moved?
That was oh my gosh, that was ages ago. That
I
was
know, but it's such
Haiti.
a good story.
I know it was Haiti, and I don't remember who donated the ambulance, but we ended up what was involved in figuring out how to get an ambulance from New York on a container ship to Port-au-Prince at the time was unbelievable. But they needed it desperately, and they needed it in the north, and so we were able to meet that need. And part of what that looks like is me going out and saying, "Who can help us access this specific supply?" And you would be amazed. I mean, at times it is like something out of Wonderama. Do you remember when Wonderama
I
was running?
do
And it's
remember one
who has a red sock in their bag? I feel like, we were asked by Partners in Health in Rwanda years ago. They wanted to do a cooking training program for women who are HIV positive, and a way of getting them to commit to receiving treatment and staying compliant and on meds was to train them. It was such a smart program. So I went all over the place asking anyone who had any connection to culinary and kitchen work to find me stoves and ovens that could be donated, and it worked. But I put the call out, and it was on one hand, people could say that has nothing to do with what you're doing, but it has everything to do with what we're doing, because it impacts adherence and health over a longer term period of time if care is connected to work.
Oh, yeah. We had to do that one time when I was running Mary Claire, and we found that kids, the mothers would walk their kids to school to get fed because they couldn't feed them at home. This was in Africa and Kenya. And they needed to take their HIV meds. You can't take the HIV meds without food. So they were getting an education as kind of a byproduct of getting their meds, which was so interesting. It was like putting the two together is such
So
an
smart.
interesting thing. Yeah, like you figure out what the two needs are and where they fit, and where they go together. Interesting. So do you have a sense, do you have any numbers on how much stuff you've shipped around the world? Because you've been in business for a while now. Do you have some like big
Yeah.
numbers
So
to talk
we
about?
have, in 17 years, we have shipped over 13 million pounds of supplies valued at close to $70 million.
Oh,
I
it's
know
just
we have,
unbelievable.
it's unbelievable. And I really started this as a cottage industry out of my garage in Westchester County in New York. I thought, okay, I'll be thrilled if I have a few boxes that I can share. And it just grew enormously. We've touched 87 nations, 23 states, and we are launching now a gorgeous movement called 100% New York, where the goal is for 100% of the healthcare providers, institutions in New York to donate surplus to AFIA so we can create a second life from it, and to have New York City be the one city in the US to start that is fully committed, working with Greater New York Hospital Association on donating this surplus and creating extraordinary output from the surplus.
That's amazing. And are they on board? Is New York on board?
Yes, it's a very exciting time for us. More and more hospitals, some we've worked with all along, some are just getting on board now. It's an amazing process to watch this kind of coming to life and new donors of product coming to us.
And so interesting from a sustainability point of view, right? Because this was all going into landfill before, right? They were just tossing.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I have to say that I give hospitals a lot of credit because it's easier. It's easier to just throw it away, Lesley, than it is at the end of a
Sure.
case in an OR to
Yeah.
start looking at what
Yeah.
supplies are we putting in the Afia bag?
Yeah.
What are we going to
Yeah.
do? But
Yeah.
it shows such a commitment to doing
Yeah.
good here, a profound commitment.
Yeah. And at one point, you were even doing the little bags for when people traveled. Are you done with that little thing, or do you still do it?
No, so we still have
What was it
families
called? Bags,
luggage for life,
love it,
luggage for
luggage for
life.
life.
And so
Yeah.
we have orange is the color of Afia. The bags are orange. It was these orange sunsets in the Serengeti that will stay with me forever. So everything, it is a bright neon orange at Afia when you walk in and see the walls. But we pack these bags, and travelers and families find a clinic through their hotel, through their travel agent. They go down, they ask the hotel, where do local people get their health care here? And they deliver it. And it is a game changer. I did this one night in Tanzania, and I brought my bags late after meetings. And this woman was being carried out screaming. It was like the core of grief. And the nurse opened the bags and said, "What do you want for this?" And I said, "I want nothing. This is a gift for you. I'm here. I brought you medical supplies." And she said, "If you'd been here an hour ago, I could have saved this woman's life."
Mm.
And the reason that is so, I think, crucial is that everyone has a person that matters. So when people say to me, "But how many people can I really help with this bag?" We all have a person. And if we can help that person and we spread that as a ripple, it's an extraordinary way to use travel.
Yeah, and you often get you get a bag you can check. Even if you're used to carrying on, you get a, free bag often that you don't use, right? You don't use the
Right.
checking thing. So that's what you can use it for. You can use it for the Afia bag. That's awesome. So talk about what you guys have done for Hurricane Helene and Milton in the US. What are they asking for? What can any listeners help at this point?
Well, Helene, North Carolina, there are parts of North Carolina that are completely devastated. We have sent truckloads, and we have continual truckloads going in. We helped Asheville medics. They needed urgent care supplies. We are working with a geriatrician who leads care at 100 nursing homes. The last time we spoke, there are a number of them that she still hasn't been able to make contact with, and has received we've received from her a list of medical supplies that she needs for these facilities. And this is part of the next truckload going down. We are continually getting supplies in. For Milton, it's really interesting. We do so much work with the federally qualified health centers in New York that the Florida Association of Community Health Centers reached out to us prior to the storm and said, "We're really going to need you." And so now we're getting listen from them and starting to move that inventory down as well. I think if anyone wants to help with supplies, I think one of the main things we need massive collections of personal hygiene supplies, because during these disasters, and I can share with you a flyer, during these disasters, if you don't have a toothbrush and you don't have toothpaste and you don't have soap, it's like the basic human needs. There's sutures and there's gauze and there's betadine, and then there's like, I wake up and I want to brush my teeth and I want to have deodorant, and so we do both. And so, Lesley, many of the clinics where we're working, we give them tons of personal hygiene to be able to share with families who are coming in for treatment. That's one. Two is anyone that has any extra supplies from any wound care treatment at home care, anything that has to do with gauze and dressings, please put that in the mail to us, because the number one product we're asked for medically during times of disaster is always wound care. I mean, people are injured from these disasters. So that would be incredible. And, I think on another level, another way to get the word out is for people to purchase the book, have a book discussion club, figure out what a contribution to Afia could be. People can get on our website and make a financial donation to support this amazing work that is saving the planet and saving people all at the same time. Um, but also, there's something about the book, I think, that there are so many stories of creating something and making something possible that wasn't there before, that it inspires that kind of reasoning in the reader. Like people start to notice that process in their own lives. And I have to say that I think the most important piece, if I had to be my own hindsight quarterback here, is that we have to be very careful about the voices inside of us that we listen to, right? And you and I have talked about this at length, that if we listen to, you don't know what you're doing. If I'd listened to, you don't know what you're doing, you know nothing about warehousing, you know nothing about any of this, it would have begun and ended as quickly as a breath. And I didn't. I trusted the voice I've been living with my whole life that like catapults me forward and gets me to take risks. And I think we have to be very careful and choose the voice that mobilizes us and makes us happy.
Right. Because in all, well, it's, you have, I mean, we all know anybody who's, listened to me or come to Covey or whatever, we all know that just because your brain is telling you, your brain is meant to be protective. It's telling you,
Yes.
I call it dinosaur at the door. Like anytime you have a new idea, it's taking you back to your caveman times and going, no, 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 it's really safe in here. You may hate it, but you know what's going on in here. You're not out there, you might get eaten, right? And that's always
Yep.
the right. Doing something new, you might get eaten. It's true. And a lot of people do. It doesn't work out. It's a bomb. It's a whatever. But that's what your brain, it's trying to do you a favor, but you can't always listen to it. And that I think a lot of people think because, people say, oh, that's really risky, whatever. And then your brain says, yeah, it's really risky. Maybe I shouldn't. That's where their plans shut down. And you have to realize that it's just an internal mechanism that will always shut down anything exploratory, anything new, anything. And you just have to understand it's not, I always try to make people understand it's positive, but you can ignore it. It's meant to help you, but your brain doesn't always
Yes.
know what,
Yes. And Lesley, you can also acknowledge it. So part of I did amazing training in cognitive behavioral therapy as an occupational therapist. And part of it is you can't say, no, 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 go away, go away,
right,
voice that's
right,
hounding me.
right,
It's
right.
okay, well, I hear you and I hear you inside of my head and thanks for showing up.
Thank
And I
you.
think I'm
Thank you.
gonna, yeah, I'm gonna listen to the other voice at the
Right.
table now
I'm going
and
to
give
go
them
ahead
equal
and take
time.
that risk. Yes, exactly. Were you always a risk taker, Danielle? Would you say were you more on the risk taking side your whole life? Do you think?
My theory about risk taking is you have to just start taking them to start taking them more, right?
Okay.
And so if we don't if we don't live afraid of what we don't know, and instead we are eager to explore it and learn from it, I mean, what's the worst thing happens? We fail. I mean, okay. Like, okay, no one's gonna, like, and nothing terrible is gonna happen if you fail. You figure out next. And so I feel like the only way to start taking risks is to start taking risks. And then you start to appreciate where that process can lead you.
Right. Now we're coming into the holiday season. Is there anything in particular that people should know or think about? You're looking for donation, you're looking for particular things, anything. I mean, it's a good thing to give to the people who have everything, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. So I would say a few things here. One is if people want to make a financial donation in honor of someone they love, this is
That's right.
beautiful work. It's
Okay.
beautiful work and it's saving lives without having to be a surgeon. We are hands-on, legitimately saving lives. Number one. Number two, I think the book, there's something beautiful in these stories that people have invited us to. People can find the book on Afia's website. Give it to other people.
Inspirational.
There was a person in Richmond who ran a car dealership who bought it for the entire shop and said, I want you all to read this book.
Yeah.
And I want you to get inspired around showing up for other people. So I think it fits for this time of year.
Right.
If people want to have collections, around these products that we spoke about earlier, please do. And we are building AFIA clubs in universities and high schools across the country now.
I
So
like
any of
that.
the listeners who have who are in that group or have children who are in that group, we would love for them to connect to us and expand our reach there because what these students can do is unbelievable.
Oh, and it's great for the students. So where can people find you? And are you on social media? So give us all the info.
So people can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on LinkedIn. It's Afia Foundation, and I can share with you, Lesley. Let me
It's
how
AFYA, so people know it's AFY.org.
AFYA Foundation.org is our website. That's probably the easiest way to find everything that you need about AFIA. And anyone wanting more information, please email info@afiafoundation.org.
Awesome. Danielle, you're such an inspiration. Thank you so much for being a good friend and for
Oh,
a good
Lesley,
friend
thank
to the
you.
world and an inspiration to all of us. Thanks so much.
Thank you.